introduce European citizenship, to develop Europe as an area of freedom, security and justice, and to maintain and build on established EU law. The European Parliament is the part of the EU which makes decisions on spending and introduces new laws.
International politics is very, very important, but the European Parliament, there's an awful lot of bureaucracy going on, which means that just things don't get happen because there's too much paperwork, things are getting bounced backwards and forwards, and like I said before, the European Parliament don't actually have a huge amount of power, so, you know, a lot of what they can do is recommend things to national governments, but really, national governments don't have to pay attention to a lot of what they say, and here in the UK, to be honest, we don't. We don't feel like we're part of Europe, so we don't really listen to them.
The House of Commons and the House of Lords are where political decisions are made. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland now make some of their own laws within their own areas of government, which is called devolution. The European Parliament is the part of the EU that makes decisions on spending and introduces new laws.
Politics affects everything around us, from educational matters like university tuition fees to how often our bins are collected. It's all around us, so shouldn't we all take part?
In some countries, such as Australia, voting is compulsory. Voting in the UK is completely optional. You don't have to vote. But if you are not involved in the process, how can you complain about a political decision that is made? Politics is not just for middle-aged and middle-class people. Everyone is represented by Parliament. Baroness Young is a people's peer, which means she doesn't belong to any specific political party, and she was recommended to join the House of Lords by some members of the public.
I think it's really important for everybody to be politically engaged, but especially young people. And I think what we've got now is a bit of a culture of cynicism, a bit of a culture of, well, nothing you say is going to make any difference, nothing you do is going to make any change. So I think there's plenty of issues to get stirred up and angry about, if you like. And for young people, if you're a young person and you think, oh, you know, why am I being bullied, or why do I feel like bullying people? Why is it not safe for me to go out on the streets, or why don't I feel safe that it's safe for me to go out on the streets? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why can't I afford it? All of those issues are political to me. And instead of standing on the sidelines or getting involved in a kind of a sort of peripheral way, I think it's really important to get stuck in there and make your voice heard. That doesn't mean that it's necessary for everybody to think, I must join the House of Lords or I must be an MP, but it is about raising one's own awareness of what's going on and finding out, along with others, how it's possible to change things.
Your involvement in the political process doesn't have to end with your vote. You can lobby your MP over issues you feel strongly about, support pressure groups and make yourself heard.
If your voice is not heard, nothing can ever change. Political apathy can have very damaging effects.
There will always be a section of society who will feel passionately about issues, and they might not always be representative. They might be on the extreme sides, one side or the other. And if you don't vote, if normal people, if normal young people don't go out and vote, then what happens is those people who hold extreme views do, and they're not representative, and that's really bad for our country and for democracy.
Young people are passionate about a lot of things and vote in their millions on TV programmes such as The X Factor or Big Brother. So why do so many young people switch off when it comes to politics? Maybe it's because they can't see the link between politicians and the things that affect them directly. Perhaps if young people talked and debated the issues that affect them directly, they could put plans into action to change them.
But the amazing thing about politics is it touches everybody's lives. Whether you're 4, 14, 40 or 84, it'll make a difference. So 2 bits of advice. Number 1, keep an eye on what's going on in the news, because it does make a difference. If we go to a war in Iraq, then you could end up fighting in that war, and you'll certainly be paying for it when you're a taxpayer. Second thing is, get involved about those things that matter to you. You don't have to be 18 to write to your Member of Parliament. And if you do write to your MP, you've got the right to expect that person to act on your behalf. So get angry about stuff. Tell us what you want and don't take no for an answer. You do that, then you're politically active.
A recent online survey shows that young people's interest in politics is connected to their involvement in creating change and whether their ideas have an outcome. Seeing your ideas come to fruition can be very rewarding. Young participants said that they wanted politicians to be on MySpace or Bebo, as this would give them a better understanding of their politicians and enable them to stay in contact more effectively. There was a lot of support for politicians to meet young people, to explain how politics works and what they're doing in their local community to improve things.
Well, they get involved in all sorts of things, partly according to what they choose, because each year they choose their own campaigns, and then we try and make sure that whatever they want to do happens. So in the past they've worked on anti-bullying strategies, they've promoted better sex and relationships education in schools, and probably our most successful campaign has been transport, where they have went to talk to the council, and the council has allocated money for concessionary transport for young people, so that's really great. And at the moment we're in the middle of a consultation about how that money is going to be spent, which is being run by young people.
Voting in the UK is completely optional, but political apathy can have very damaging effects. Young people's interest in politics is connected to whether they can be involved in creating change, as well as seeing results.
If we seek change, who do we speak to? And how?
Well, if you want your MP to represent your view, it's important that you let them know. You may find them at a local event, or you could always write to them or give them a call. MPs should always listen to the voice of their constituents. Claire Ward explains.
If it's something that I think is a really good idea and we need to campaign for, I might write to the government minister and say, this is what my constituent suggests and I think it's a really good idea. And if we get lots of letters on those subjects, sometimes that helps to push the government towards a particular view. So we've seen recently that there were thousands and thousands of people wrote in about the post office card account. And what this is a card that people get their benefits and child payments and pensions and things like that through, and they're using the post office. And there was a risk that it was going to go to someone other than the post office to use. But thousands and thousands of people wrote to their MPs and said how important it was to them. And the government looked at it, realised it was really, really important, and said that they wouldn't make those changes. So that, in a nutshell, is just one example of what happens all the time because of the pressure of public opinion.
Most MPs will hold advice surgeries where locals from the community can discuss their concerns, thoughts and ideas. There is even the option to lobby your MP at the House of Commons whenever it's in session. This essentially means talking to them while they are at the Commons.
Remember, MPs work for us. It should be easy to keep in touch with our elected MPs and to comment on what happens in Parliament.
Even though at the moment young people are not allowed to vote until the age of 18, and incidentally I think that should be lowered to 16, there are still ways of making a difference. Even though you don't have a vote until you're 18, you still have representatives who are there to work on behalf of you. You have local councillors, you have members of Parliament, members of the European Parliament, and in some areas perhaps a member of the Welsh Assembly, the Scottish Parliament, or the Greater London Assembly. You can write to these individuals, or it may well be easier to send them an email, go to their website, find out what they're doing on the issues that you care about. There's a lot of campaign groups out there that you can join and get involved in, and indeed have a look at the different political parties and what they're saying. And if you agree with the main thrust of a particular political party, then why not join and get more involved? That way your voice can be heard and you can really make a difference on the issues that you care about.
Pressure groups are an easy way to become involved in politics. They're an organised group that doesn't put candidates up for election, but seeks to influence government policy or legislation. One example of major pressure group is Greenpeace. There are thousands of others, local, national and international. They are sometimes described as interest groups, lobby groups or protest groups.
If there are no pressure groups concerning your issue, then you could always start your own. There are a list of pressure groups online. Baroness Hayman talks to us about how you could even become involved with the House of Lords.
So they can apply, like anyone else, for a job to become a member of the House of Lords. It's not all secret and behind closed doors. There's an application process. You can look up on a website and see who makes the appointments, see what the criteria are for being able to contribute in this fantastic position of being a legislator.
There are lots of ways you can get involved with the political world. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home.
Politics is becoming increasingly accessible via the internet. Web-based blogs and online petitions are widespread, and most political parties have websites and YouTube videos.
And there's plenty of opportunities to find out more about Parliament. You can start looking at what's in the newspapers, start watching the news a bit more regularly. You can actually get online and look at the UK Parliament's website, and within that there's a section for education that actually tries to explain things in a sensible way for school-aged children. And you can write to your MP, you can contact your MP. Your MP usually will have a website. You can look on the House of Lords website. There's multiple ways in which you can start to find out what's going on here. You can come along and observe a debate in the chamber. You can persuade your teacher to come book a visit through the Education Service, at which point you'll come into Parliament, have a workshop, and hopefully actually go and see the House of Commons and the House of Lords actually actively working.
You can visit the Houses of Parliament and explore archives dating back to 1497. Schools can organise visits and apply to sit in on the Prime Minister's question time or a debate.
With so many ways of getting involved with politics, what advice does Lembit Opik have for young people?
If I had one piece of advice, it's this. If you haven't got a debating society in your school, start one today or tomorrow, but this week. And in that debating society, you can talk about anything under the sun, whether it's war, whether it's tax, whether it's school, whether it's freedom, whether it's a lack of liberty, whether it's just something that really bugs you in your school. If you have a debating society, then you will start arguing in ways which are just like politics, and you'll learn how to debate, and more than anything you realise that politics can be fun.
There are many ways to contact your local representative, such as emailing or calling them. A pressure group is a group that seeks to influence government policy or legislation. Politics is accessible via new and old technology.
So if you were one of those people who thought politics was nothing about you, think again. Politics is about you and your community. So have your say today. Contact your local MP and stand up for what you believe in.